Today I'm out near Monterey, California, taking a look at Hyundai's latest performance vehicle, the all-new Elantra N. At the moment, this is the pinnacle of Hyundai performance that you can buy in the United States. Essentially what Hyundai has done is they've taken the latest generation Elantra and beefed up everything about the vehicle. They've added extra chassis bracing, they've replaced the brakes, they've replaced the engine, the transmissions, etc. under the hood. You can get up to 286 horsepower if you select the right Elantra N. Although Honda has yet to release details of the upcoming Civic Si as of the date that I am filming this Elantra N, all the rumors point to it being less powerful than this. So this is definitely going to be in a little bit of a category by itself. It's more powerful than the current generation Jetta GLI, definitely going to be more powerful than the next generation Honda Civic Si, but not quite where we see something perhaps like the Civic Type R. Although Hyundai has yet to release pricing information for the Elantra N just yet, I suspect this is going to be somewhere around $35,000 or so. Be sure and stay tuned because that information should happen sometime soon. We have LED headlights up front just as you'd expect in a modern vehicle, a more aggressive front end design than we find in the regular Elantra, lots of red accents here. This blue color is exclusive to the N vehicles. This is called Sonic Blue as I recall. I kind of think of it as N Performance Periwinkle. The lighting design up front is pretty similar to the rest of the Elantra lineup. We find full LED headlights, turn signals integrated into the front grille, and then functional vents down below. Conventional wisdom may say that sedans are a dying breed, but Hyundai certainly doesn't think so, and that's why we're getting an Elantra N in addition to the Kona N, which was inevitable because it is a small crossover. This is almost exactly the same size as the regular Elantra. They've just tweaked the front bumper and the rear bumper a little bit, but we still get a trunk lid in the back. Out back, the Elantra N gets a number of changes versus the regular Elantras. We get a very similar tail lamp module to the limited trim, but it does get a little bit of a tweak for the N model. Huge exhaust tips down here at the bottom, dual one on each side. Reflectors located on the bottom. That little triangular reflector down there is actually just a reflector. The third brake light is right there behind the glass. We also get a pretty big wing for an Elantra. This is the biggest wing the Elantra's ever had from the factory, but I do like the fact that it's an awful lot more discreet than what we saw on the last generation Honda Civic Type R. Trunk release still discreetly located right there below the Hyundai logo. One thing that did surprise me is that the tail lamp modules are still combination LEDs, so the brake lights and the parking lights are LEDs, but the turn signals and backup lights are incandescent. Hyundai went all in on angles with the new Elantra. The side profile is full of angles all over the surfacing of the doors. We even see those lines converge right back here on the trunk lid where it sort of looks like this has been karate chopped right in the middle. Let me know what you think about the look down there in the comments section. I have to say I like the angular look going on here, but I also like the more flowing looks that we see, for instance, in the new Hyundai Santa Fe. No performance car would be complete without big tires, big wheels, and big brakes, so of course we find all three of those on the Elantra N, combined with a slightly lowered ride height versus the rest of the Elantra lineup. These are 245 with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires from the factory. Those are definitely very grippy, and on the inside we find red painted calipers and the biggest brake setup ever fitted to an Elantra. Under the hood we find N engine. Sorry, I couldn't help myself there. This is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo that is very closely related to the turbo engines that we find in the other N products in the United States, the Kona N and the Veloster N. But as time has gone on, there have been a few additional tweaks to the N turbo. This has made it to your choice of a 6-speed manual transmission or a new 8-speed dual clutch transmission that's also been borrowed out of those other N vehicles. You're probably going to want the 8-speed DCT in my opinion, because that's going to give you a little bit more power. It's also going to be a little bit easier to drive on a daily basis. Obviously the most fun one is going to be the manual transmission model, but if you get the 8-speed dual clutch transmission, you get 10 extra horsepower for 20 seconds thanks to the N grin shift mode. One of the interesting features under the hood is the E limited slip differential. Rather than a mechanical limited slip differential that can only respond to wheel slip, this can adjust before wheel slip occurs, and that really makes this interesting to drive. It's the same sort of limited slip differential that we find in the Kona N and of course the Veloster N as well. The front seats feature a definitely sporty design with some pretty aggressive seat bolstering on the bottom cushion and on the seat back cushion. We'll take a look at it a little closer in a bit. This is a full manual design, no power seat is available. The steering wheel is a tilt telescopic design with a large range of motion. The passenger seat is of course also a manual design, but it doesn't adjust for height. Even though the front seat design changes, rear seat comfort doesn't appear to be affected at all. The front seats appear to be pretty slim, so we might even get a little bit more legroom back here than in the regular model, but I don't have specific details just yet. One of the big advantages for the Elantra N over some of the competition is the size of the back seat. This is big, it's accommodating, it's comfortable, and I have a reasonable amount of headroom. Now if I lean my head all the way back there towards the headrest, then I do have to crouch down a little bit just due to the design of most compact sedans. But because compact sedans just aren't as compact as they used to be, there's actually plenty of room right here across the middle. As we go for a quick spin around the interior, you should know that there are really only two ways that you can get your Elantra N. You can get it with the manual or with the automatic. If you get the automatic, we get a sunroof. If you get the manual, you don't. The driver and front passenger get height adjustable shoulder belts, fixed in-place headrests with this very unique seat design. This appears to be a 5-point harness capable seat, but it is just the design. This is not actually designed for shoulder belts to go right through those openings right there. The N logo, however, that is illuminated at night, which is really a cool touch. Apparently that was somewhat controversial in the design stage, so let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below. Personally, I love it. From this angle, you can see the really aggressive side bolsters on the seat back and seat bottom cushion. And it's a little bit difficult to tell, but there's also an interesting stripe running right there through that imitation suede center section of the seat. That particular design pattern is also mimicked over there on the front doors. In case you're wondering, the reason that we don't find power seats is the same reason that we don't find rear seat air vents. They were deleted in order to reduce weight in the vehicle. Lots of performance vehicles make some interesting choices when it comes to weight saving, so I'd love to know what you think about that down there in the comments section below. Would you rather have the creature comforts and slower 0 to 60 times and poorer handling, or do you like the fact that manufacturers like this try and make lightweight versions? Moving over to the front doors, we find some slim speaker grills right there at the top of the door. Again, that imitation suede fabric right there on the door insert. Hyundai has really done a good job dressing up the cabins of the Elantra, whether we're talking about this Elantra N or the rest of the lineup. Down lower on the door, we have some bottle holders, soft touch armrests. On the dash itself, we have large air vents located centrally right there, and then a stripe that runs across. But you'll notice that over here in this midsection, this is not an air vent, it's just a blank with those styling elements. Some soft touch plastics up above, hard plastics below, right there around that glove compartment. The glove compartment itself is a bin-style compartment. I was easily able to fit a 10-inch tablet computer inside. In the middle of the dashboard, we find a large touchscreen infotainment system. It's just over 10 inches. It supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and factory navigation, as you can see right there. To the left of that, we have a full-color LCD instrument cluster. This is basically the same design as the one that we find in the regular Elantra, but it has a few extra gauges. Those are controlled via these buttons over here on the steering wheel. So if I switch pages, we have some N-specific gauges right there in the middle: turbo pressure, lap time, G-force, etc. As with the cluster in the regular Elantra, there are 3 different themes available, and they can be linked to your drive mode. We have Classic A, which is that theme right there. We then have Classic B, which is a bit sportier, and Classic C, which is sort of an eco-focused theme. Speaking of drive modes, let's take a look at the N performance screen in this infotainment system. You can see that we get some extra readouts there: throttle, oil temperature, engine temperature. We get a tachometer there, for instance. Bunch of different information that can be popped out as well. So if you tap on those options, you can pop those displays out for a different view. Over here, this is where you can adjust the custom settings. This is one of the most unique things about this vehicle. We have the engine in 3 different levels: normal, sport, sport plus, steering in 3 different levels as well, adaptive suspension system, rev matching, the E-limited slip differential, again, one of the cooler features of this vehicle. The drive modes can be adjusted via the N buttons on the steering wheel. This button right over here pulls up the custom modes, Custom 1, Custom 2, or the default N mode. We also get an updated view on that instrument cluster over there, and the one on the left side cycles through the drive modes, so you can go for eco or normal or sport, etc. If you got the model with the DCT, we'd get paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel. On the left side over here, we find infotainment controls, voice command button, mode button for that infotainment system, and then over here on the right side, we find the controls for the cruise control system and the lane centering software. In case you're wondering, that's what the Elantra N's key looks like, N logo right there on the back. At the bottom of the steering wheel, we have a rev button that turns on or off the rev matching function if you have the manual transmission. If you get the dual clutch transmission, it's replaced with an N grin shift button. That's the overboost function that gives you 10 extra horsepower. Moving back out to the instrument cluster, on the left side, we find a styling choice. This is not actually a magnetic mount or anything like that for your smartphone. This is simply a styling choice. Although what I find interesting is that we see a style very similar on the Ioniq 5, but they actually put a metal backing on there so you can use magnets to stick things to your dashboard. Going back to the middle of the dash, we have that engine start-stop button, some physical buttons for the infotainment system, dual-zone climate control, buttons for the heated seats, defroster, defogger, USB inputs for that infotainment system, large storage area right there where you could very easily keep your smartphone. Also, we have a Qi wireless charging mat. Going back to the center console, we have 2 large air vents right there underneath that infotainment system, an engine start-stop button, physical buttons for the infotainment system, dual-zone automatic climate control, buttons for the heated seats, front defroster, etc. This is what the shifter looks like in the manual transmission model. We have the drive mode selector there, parking cameras right there up front, no 360 camera, that's just a backup camera, handbrake right there, 2 large cup holders, and then a pretty large center armrest. If you want to get your hands on an Elantra N, you might want to stay tuned because this should be on sale towards the end of calendar year 2021. You can probably reach out to your Hyundai dealer as soon as you see pricing announced for this vehicle, and you'll probably be able to get your hands on one at some time shortly thereafter. If you want to know how this drives, unfortunately I have not been able to do more than just twirl it around right here in the parking lot. You'll have to wait until I can get my hands on one in order to tell you how that works. Again, bearing in mind that I have not driven the Elantra N, we can make a few assumptions. Based on the curb weight and the fact that this drivetrain is basically borrowed out of the Veloster N, I expect that this is going to go 0 to 60 faster than the new Subaru WRX, which has also been redesigned for 2022. Most metrics put the last generation WRX somewhere between 6 seconds and 5.6 seconds 0 to 60, depending on the version that you get. This generation is going to be a little bit faster. Keep in mind it is all-wheel drive, however, and as a result it's probably going to be a little bit heavier than the Elantra N. The Elantra N also has that available 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, which is probably the fastest way to get your Elantra N. If you get a Veloster N, you can go 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, so I would not be at all surprised if this was half a second faster regardless of the version that you got. This engine produces more horsepower and more torque than the engine that we find in the new WRX, and the vehicle is likely going to be lighter. Again, specifications are a little bit sketchy at the moment. The light part is definitely the important thing to keep in mind with the Elantra N. The engineers were really upfront that they could have put all-wheel drive in this and in the Kona N, etc., but they chose not to because they were interested in making a vehicle that was as light as possible but still had the creature comforts that you expect on the inside. That's why they deleted some of the features inside, the power seats, the rear air vents, etc. Will we ever see a Performance N vehicle from Hyundai with all-wheel drive? That I have no answer to at the moment, but I honestly hope that they do produce at least one at some point in the future. Now that said, I don't think that the lack of all-wheel drive has hurt their closest competitor at all, and I think that would be the duo of the Civic Si and the upcoming Honda Civic Type R. Now again, at the time that I'm recording this video, I don't have any details of the new 2022 Civic Si other than I know it will be on sale at some point either late this year or early calendar year 2022. The Civic Type R, that's at least another year down the road. Expect it to be more expensive, more raw, more powerful, and a little bit less available as well. Availability with the Type R has definitely been a big issue, but Hyundai has not had the same kind of production constraints, deliberate or otherwise, with their N products. So if you want an Elantra N, it's likely going to be available. Even if you have to order it, you should be able to get your hands on one, and even if there is a slight premium over MSRP at the beginning, you'll probably be able to find one eventually at MSRP or just slightly above. That is definitely a big difference between what we see in the Hyundai lineup and in the Honda lineup. Hyundai seems more willing to actually produce the quantities that people want to buy. And it doesn't hurt that Hyundai is also giving us that excellent 8-speed DCT, which hopefully I'll be able to sample at some point in the future. So if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen and be sure and check out the full review just as soon as I can get my hands on it. And again, if you want to get your hands on an Elantra N as soon as possible, it's probably time to start reaching out to your Hyundai dealer and get your name on a list. I'm sure that multiple Hyundai dealers will have lists that you can get on right around the time you're watching this video. I'll see all of you next week.